that leads me. You got some really good ideas. I want to hear what you brought.
I think this might be the one that finally gets some disagreement.
Okay.
But my suggestion is that I think that the J.League needs better overseas promotion. And I'll explain where I'm coming from, but I want to hear what everyone has to say.
I'll have to be on the J.League side on this one. Disagreement. Agreement?
You're leaving me hanging.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Can I go in the middle? Can I go like?
Yeah, no, but it's okay if you go in the middle.
Yeah, with a caveat. I agree, but I think with a caveat.
I agree with you, actually. Like, I mean, this is something. Not that I don't think that the J.League is doing a bad job, but I think that the league can do some things better, and the clubs can do much better. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to put this down. As far as things like English language home-pages, I think English language ticket sales. I mean, this is really basic stuff. Right now, I think only 3 J1 clubs have English language Twitter accounts. Can anyone around the table name the 3?
Montedio Yamagata.
Well,
they occasionally tweet in English.
He tweets in English. Stuart, I know you know the 3.
I don't know.
Official accounts.
Official accounts.
Yeah.
We're talking J1 or J-League?
We're talking
J1.
I think including J1. Well, let's keep it at J1.
So there's 3 in
Twitter
J1.
accounts, though?
Yes, there's
Twitter.
So the first was Sereso Osaka, then Shimizu S-Pulse,
right?
Kashima Antlers.
Yeah.
And you should look at the big clubs like Marinos, like FC Tokyo, like Urawa Reds, who should have English language social media, and they don't. Yeah. And it's tough. Obviously, this takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of manpower. But I think that the clubs need to start stepping up. And one of the most common requests I get throughout the year is from fans who want to go to a J-League games, foreign tourists, and they have no idea how to buy a ticket, who's playing, or how to get to the stadium. And this is all basic information that the league could put on its website, or the clubs can put on their websites, and that's the first step.
Right. Hiroshi-san, we have a situation.
Yes, we do. And we're working on it as a league, yes. Recently we've been, for the international market, we have the English website and the Facebook we use in English and also in Thai. And in this 1 year, we are almost reaching about 1 million followers for the English Facebook, and for the Thai Facebook about 500,000 followers, and it's increasing. And
good.
On those social media, we are trying to put in effort in uploading more content of the basic information.
Right.
You know,
is that from the J-League itself, yeah?
Yes, it's the
have you
J-League.
ever had discussions, or has the J-League people had conversations with the several different clubs about outside promotion or international promotion?
Right, we're having a discussion with the clubs as well to expose more in English and other than Japanese, so that more fans outside from Japan can go to the stadium to enjoy their match.
It's tough because I think Sean mentioned Montevideo Yamagata, and their social media guy, he speaks English, and he's actually tried to engage with clubs in other countries and with fans in English, and that's been incredible. Like I hope that makes this the final cut of this show, because he deserves because he deserves praise for stepping up and doing that, and the club deserves praise for letting him do that, because I think that clubs are scared of social media. I think that's true not just of J-League clubs, but really any company in Japan. You're always worried that you're going to cause a backlash and sort of cause a controversy through something that you post. Or I think that Japanese fans and Japan in general does have expectations of if you are a company or a sports team that's tweeting, they want you to be sort of responsible.
Right.
And
as professional as possible.
as professional as possible. But if you look at how foreign sports clubs are doing their social media these days, it's much more fun and freewheeling,
casual,
and engaging.
Yeah. But can I jump in here? I think the issue is, you said obviously the guy at Montedio, he speaks English,
right?
And you mentioned European clubs have accounts in various languages. The reason they have them is because there is already an audience waiting.
Right.
The reason the Italian clubs and Spanish clubs are launching Japanese accounts isn't because they're going, well, we should, because Japanese fans can't buy tickets. They're doing it because oftentimes those clubs have just signed Japanese players and they're going, well, people are going to come over. Is there, at the moment, is there really an audience overseas waiting for it? I don't dispute the fact that if there was information available, people abroad would pick up an interest. They might check the website, they might be more interested. But you then need the human resources at these clubs. This guy happens to speak English and has spoken to his boss and they've said, sure. Not every club is going to have the budget or the intent to hire someone to do that. When you might get half a dozen people reading it, there's not the interest. So that's why I was kind of on the fence, because I agree, but it comes down to...
I agree with you completely, and that's the, it is a sort of a chicken and egg situation. If there is an audience,
I don't think it's a chicken and egg. I think you need the audience. You need to have the interest first. No one is going to launch a product without checking if people want this first.
One way to solve that is, I was surprised when you said Sapporo didn't have an English Twitter account. The players are one way to do outreach. I don't think you can understate the Chanatip factor and what it's had on the league. Being based in Southeast Asia, I get it face front from Thais all the time. To them, and it's spreading across Southeast Asia now, the J-League is the league they want to aspire to play in. It is the league now. And I think you find the players, get them up here, especially Southeast Asian players, because their skill set fits the skill set and the playing style of the J-League. That's why Chanatip slid right in. But I mean, even in Vietnam, I have clients in Vietnam who call me looking for coverage of players, a couple players playing in Europe. The one hasn't gotten off the bench except for one match this year, and they said, I don't care. We just want to see their highlights. We just want to hear about what he's doing. Our most popular story with Chanatip was walking down the street with him and going having ramen noodles with him. And it was all over Thai television. And that's what they want to do. And I think the clubs need to advance scout and stop thinking that Europe is where we're going to find our players. They need to start looking right in their own backyard. There's talent, ready talent. And once those players hit it, you can build your outreach around those players. You don't have to then. Sapporo should definitely have at least a Thai Twitter account.
I believe that, I know that they probably have a Thai Facebook page, and I know Sapporo, they've been working very hard in Southeast Asia. Speaking of Vietnam, obviously they had Le Cong Vinh in 2013, and I believe that was the first time that a foreign company had purchased ad space at a J-League game, because they had a Vietnamese sponsor on the ad hoardings. And that was a big moment for J-League marketing. And it is tough because you have to create the audience somehow. And I think that the audience is out there, and I think that you can go and find them, or you can wait for them to come to you, but you do sort of have to open the door a little. So there's a lot of challenges, and it isn't sort of as simple as agree or disagree, because I think that the league has made massive strides in the last couple of years.
I use that myself in my work now. That didn't exist a few years ago. But as you said with the chicken and egg thing, the player can be that opening of the door, because the audience comes with the player. You know, those Thais are following Chanatip. I remember going to Sapporo for his last match of his first season. Freezing cold out, and I see these people waving a Thai flag. So what are you doing here? Chanatip, we came for Chanatip. You know, I mean, Hokkaido Tourism Board must be loving it, because these people were flying up there.
You said the magic word, tourism. I think you look at J2 and J3 clubs. who are based in cities with really attractive tourism possibilities, and they can latch onto that and try to get, you know, the European football fans who want to go out into the countryside, and if they know that there's a game happening, hey, maybe they'll check it out. I think that there's a lot of ways that you can promote the league and the clubs to that audience.
Every club website should have a way for you to buy tickets in English. You know, maybe there's a link to hotels or get JTB on board or whatever. That way I can sit at home in Bangkok and plan my trip to Japan, including a match, whatever. Those are the kind of things that they should be thinking about.
This is where you need to keep the balance in mind of why are you bringing the players. If like you said, a J2 club is going, well, this could be good for tourism, they're not any better as a team. You need to find that balance. I completely agree with what Stephen said, that the players are the way to build the audience. Now in Australia, in the week or two before Marinos did finally win the league, I was getting contact from journalists in Australia saying, can you come on our podcast? Can you write something for our website? We want to know what's happening there. And that now is opening up the league to Australian fans. That is nothing to do with the J-League. That isn't something that needs to start with the J-League. It starts with the product on the pitch. Then Australian fans see that and go, we want to find out more, we want to know more about this. And it grows organically. So the J-League does have to do stuff, clubs have to do stuff, but fundamentally, this is a football league. If you make sure the football is good, it doesn't matter where the players are. The reason the Premier League is the biggest league in the world is because the players are from all over the world.
Right.
People aren't just going, this is the best football. There are players from every continent, every country who've gone there and proved themselves, which then means you open up markets in all these different countries. People then want to watch it. So it's not just something where the J-League need to make sure they've got an English website, that clubs are doing more to engage on social media. If they open their nets a bit wider and go, not just this is going to open up good tourism, he's going to get us more likes. If this player is good enough, it doesn't matter if he's from Spain or he's from Vietnam. He's good, he's going to be good on the pitch. And then that will just organically grow out from there. And then the clubs will go, well, now we've got more fans coming to the stadium. We've got sponsors, like Dan said, sponsors. We've got more money. We need to bring in someone. You're in charge of covering our English social media. You're in charge of doing the Vietnamese social media. It grows from there. I don't think by just saying, we've got an account in English, suddenly people are going to go, oh, well, I'm interested in this club.
I agree. It definitely, you know, the lucky thing we had with Janitip is he's good. So you have to obviously find the right players and nurture them. So there are guys in Southeast Asia who are putting in the work and who want to do it. And you go for those guys and you want to make sure that there are guys who are going to be on the training pitch every day, putting in the time, putting in the effort, integrating themselves into Japan, because culturally it's a big change too, just in the way you do your business at a club in Japan.
And you mentioned Vietnam, and they played Japan in the Asian Cup, and they've got some very, very good players, and the fans there, the media there are fanatical.
Crazy.
If they, you know, if one of the J.League clubs took a chance on, I mean, it's not even taking a chance, because these guys are delivering in World Cup qualifiers now. You bring in someone like Quang Hai or someone like that who's really highly rated, they're going to possibly have a similar effect to Chanatip. And then again, it just grows, not just you then got fans in Vietnam, but it also just boosts the J-League reputation all around Southeast Asia. Suddenly they're going, I saw that on the news, I saw someone tweeting that they were in somewhere in Europe, in Greece or Turkey or somewhere, changing, and after Marinos won the league, because it's Ange Postecoglou, because he's the former Australia coach, he's got some kind of name value, and they were changing.
I guess that you have to increase scouting. I mean, they're going to have people down here looking at players. I think 2-week training stints with clubs is good for the players down here. You know, but you have to identify obviously the right players because the fans will follow if they produce. So, but I do think that the J-League does, the product on the pitch fits the type of style of play that they play in Southeast Asia, and it's much easier for a Southeast Asian player to make the move to Japan than it would to flip to Europe or down to another place like that. Where it might be different.
Yeah, one thing that just came to mind. We were talking about the fans from Southeast Asia coming to Japan and coming to the matches. But what they might not know is that they can go and see the training. But the training is only announced like somewhere deep down on the Japanese homepage.
Right.
It's never translated into English about which day is the fan service day where they can line up and have a signature from the player and actually just go and stand and watch them, or even the start of the season training camps and things like that. so if those were advertised in the language there, you might get a lot of fans coming from Southeast Asia to come and see those things, because that's an even closer contact with the player.
So we definitely have a case that needs something pumped into, right?
While we're on a roll here, let's get your
this kind of plays off of it a little bit, especially for foreign fans. I think the one thing I really do like about the J-League, and all the times I've been out in Asia 23 years now and been around sort of almost at the beginning of J-League, is they do create a very good fan-friendly atmosphere. It's very entertaining, both on the pitch, off the pitch. And I think that's something that they need to promote overseas as well. You know, it's a family-friendly thing. Try taking your wife and kids to a West Ham Spurs game. You know,
or anything else. To be honest,
it's
good language there.
If you have kids, you want to go to the match. I see it all the time. I mean, even 10 years ago, people asked me about what's a J-League like. I said it's kind of like date night a lot of times. You know, it's a way for. There's that girl or that boy you like. Let's go to the match and we'll hang out together.
So do we have?
I can assume we all agree with
we
that.
all
No. Oh, sorry. Big agree.
agree.
Big agree.
Sean.
Hang on the fence. I do agree, but I'm not going to say this. I'm going to go in the middle again. I do
I'm
agree.
interested to hear what you say.
Yeah, I do agree, but there is a but where I think that it is, as you just said, it's like date night, and you use the Tottenham West Ham as like an opposite of you. You couldn't do that. It's not safe. But I think at the same time, well, it's not safe. That's maybe saying a bit too much, depending which pub you go into before the game.
Right.
But I think there is something more real about the atmosphere in European stadiums where fans are there for the game. They'll come in 15 minutes before kickoff, and they're there to watch the game, and they'll react to the game. If nothing's happening, they're going to be quiet.
Yeah.
If they're not happy with the way they're playing, they're going to express their disappointment. If things are going well, they're going to get louder. You see it, big European nights, for example, at Anfield, when the team needs a goal, suddenly you hear, even watching on TV, you hear that surge where the fans suddenly, nobody's there leading them. No one's got a megaphone. No one said, right, we need to do this song now. We need to. It comes organically. It's a kind of symbiotic relationship with the flow of the game, and there's something about that as someone who grew up in England, played football in England, and went to watch football there. There's something that seems more kind of sort of, I guess, real, if you want to call it that. Yeah, there is noise the whole way through, and the fans are getting into it. And when I first moved here, I thought it was fantastic. But the longer I've been here, there are times where you're watching a game and you feel like you've seen the game 100 times before because the same chants are going on. There's no engagement. A team can concede and the fans keep singing. The fans of the team that conceded, there's no reaction. Like in England, if your team concedes, you can't keep singing. You have this feeling in your gut of disappointment, and they keep going and they'll keep chanting. The team can be losing 5-0 and right to full time they're chanting. And then it's full time, and then they start booing the players because they lost and they didn't do well. And so I think for me as a journalist, you sit in the stands and, like I said, you kind of zone out and you forget. I think it might happen for the players too.
For me, that's a uniquely Japan thing, though.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, I do understand what you're saying because I do a lot of baseball up here. And by the 7th inning, I'm like, oh, that one again?
I disagree, though, a little bit, because I'm always standing like behind the goal, and the core leader does react to the match. So the way that they're kind of directing the music as such, there is an interaction with the the play that's going on, and that it's almost kind of like a meditative. You're watching the game and you're singing the songs, and sometimes the song kind of drifts off because maybe the fans are losing a bit of interest, but the play turns around and then the drum speeds up and the song gets like a more louder and more enthusiastic at that point up to the point of the goal. So it's different.
But why do you need a core leader? Why can't fans? What would happen if you're obviously not a core leader, I assume? What would happen if you suddenly went? You want to start singing a player's name. You want to send some encouragement. If you did that, would you then be chastised by the leaders?
Like
you can't.
Okay. So if you kicked off a song by yourself, it wouldn't take. But there was a time when you know, due to circumstances, there were no core leaders at a certain match in Sendai, and the Mariners fans went there, and everybody could kick off the could kick off a chant. And it was you know, almost the same. You know, we sang the same songs, and but the one thing was that nobody knew when to end the song, so it just went on for longer and longer. You know, the core leader brings a cut to, okay, let's stop now, and then it's quiet.
But that again is, like I said, that again is a bigger Japanese cultural thing where no one is going to just suddenly in a meeting jump in and go, why don't we do it this way? Because there's a hierarchy of who talks and. Someone says this, and do you agree or not? And Japanese meetings would be a lot of agree, even if really someone disagrees.
In England, there are, like, if a chant is funny, or if people agree with it, it will get picked up. Right. If people don't agree, then it dies. I went over the summer. I went to a Brentford home game, and that was fascinating to me as the American who's sort of never been to an English football game before. And it was a very intense atmosphere, and Brentford lost, which didn't really help things, but it was sort of a chant starts, and then it goes on like a few seconds, and then it stops, and then something else happens, and then it stops, and then there's some booing, and then there's... You could feel this sort of visceral energy, and
you get antagonism too. Well, they'll taunt the other players,
and I love that.
The other fans. They'll react if someone makes a mistake. They'll give an ironic cheer, and there's none of that in Japan. It's just everything. It's like Stuart said, even if the leaders aren't there, it follows a kind of a pattern.
I think if you were allowed, if J.League fans, I should say, because the players aren't singing, if the fans were allowed if the fans were allowed to have a bit more fun and be a bit more antagonistic, especially when it comes to, say, derby games or rival games.
You're thinking of the Gamba Pigs fan?
I'm thinking of a lot of things. I can think of. You can look at the Yokohama Derby. You can look at the Saitama Derby. You can look at the Tokyo Derby, and I think I agree wholeheartedly with Steve that it's a fantastic atmosphere. You can bring your
kids,
your
grandparents, girlfriends, wives. The J-League's fan base is like 40% women. And that's, any league in the world would be envious of those numbers. The Premier League would kill for those numbers. You can bring in food, you can bring in drinks. Like, that's amazing, and there's color and sound for the whole game. But you could use a bit of spice. I've been to a couple of European derbies overseas. I was in Istanbul, I was in Milan, and...
How was Istanbul compared to the J-League?
Oh God, it was...
Quite surprised you're still here.
I'm still here. I mean, you nearly got crushed going through the gates because, like, there's just a huge, so many people, and security is patting down everyone, and this was the year after a Galatasaray fan had been killed by the police in the stadium, so there were no away fans allowed. And so it was all Fenerbahce supporters, and it was a really cool atmosphere to be in. But you look at derby games overseas, and there is an intensity, and in some countries, in some cities, a hatred. I don't think you need to go that far. And if you go that far, I think you'll be losing something that makes the J-League so special, because it is nice that two fans of two different teams, of two different Osaka teams or two different Yokohama teams, can take the same train home and not kill each other. But
that's always a positive.
It is. I mean, it's a positive, but you know, it could use a bit more.
You can make jokes, like
it's hard to get the balance.
I think that fans need to learn to have a sense of humor, and clubs need to learn to have a sense of humor to a certain extent.
Okay, how do we do this then, Hirose-san? You know, we need a level of banter in the air. Okay, I got to say, it's a difficult situation.
A banter workshop.
There you go. Banter workshop held by the J-League. Would you like to, you know, be the boss?
Well, see, that the problem is that I'm certainly. I think that some club supporters would not be happy to see me running a banter workshop. But I don't think it needs to be. I would love to see. Major League Soccer style choreography and tifos in the J-League, because you look at how MLS supporters do their pre-match displays, they do a different one for each game with some teams. Whereas in the J-League, you have the same pullover banners every week. I love it because it's the color and it's fun.
It's not fun. It's
come on, but then it lets us, because we score the players on how we do, and we can score the fans on their artistry. You know, you look at for better or for worse.
But if you do it every week, it ceases to have meaning. If there's suddenly a game, if the players come out and every week the fans are doing this and they go, oh yeah, there's a flag, great. If you come out one week and usually there's nothing and it's a big game and suddenly you come out and the whole stadium is say Surawa and there's suddenly everyone's holding up, the players then feel, okay, there's something special today. So this tifo, like a different tifo every game, why? The players don't care.
I think that for the fans, for American fans, one, it's sort of a challenge, and two, for MLS fans, it's more about the home games because MLS fans don't travel to away games nearly as well as Japanese fans do, and that's.
You need to go on DAZN in America and talk to these.
God, yeah. Well, hey,
what do you think then? What do you think? I mean, you have cases, obviously with Major League Soccer and the people growing up into the Premier League too. But also you have the J-League, in the way it prepares for a match, but. Just in context of what we've just been discussing, what do you reckon?
Yeah, actually I think basically those like chanting and all the supporting is like born by the fans. Yeah. So it's really difficult, for us league or the club to kind of lead, what to do or what to say and like that to make the reactions. And I think there's another basic vision that we have within the J-League to have the stadium become where anyone can come and enjoy and have fun. So the vision that we have is cultivating like the atmosphere that we have now. So it's quite controversial to change that kind of atmosphere.
I think another point is about the banter. About how you guys know Makino well, and how Makino sometimes comes out with these rather interesting tweets about the mascots. He's always saying this mascot is friendly to me, this mascot is blanking me out totally. But that's banter, isn't it?
Yeah. It's fun.
And that's a bit of fun on the side. Yeah. I'm not saying each club needs to have a Makino in there.
I would love for each club to have Makino in there. I think
especially pre-match.
He could change club every week. Just one game.
I think that each club, the J-League needs more characters like Tamaki Makino. Okay. I think that whatever you feel, even if you don't like Urawa, I think that he is such a lovable villain. Much in the same way, he's sort of the Darth Vader of the J-League, where you hate. Can I say that on? Are we going to get bleeped out? Or is Disney going to take us? But like, I think the league needs heroes. We talked about We talked about heroes earlier, but it also needs villains. It needs bad guys who you. You might dislike what they do as players, but you love to boo for them. It's the heel archetype in pro wrestling.
Yeah, we need the savage in there.
If it could be a little more like Captain Tsubasa, like where they have those real characters.
Yeah,
exactly. I think that if everyone in the league is a good guy, then being a good guy doesn't really mean as much.
That's kind of on us too, though, isn't it? To build up those kind of things,
and that comes pretty much from all the things
because a lot of times the players will go along with it,
Right.
I mean, they enjoy that kind of thing. So I think it's kind of up to us too to also find out, not just foreign media. I'm talking Japanese media as well. Needs to, get it.
You mentioned Bando before, and I remember once I asked him a question in the mix zone, and he looked at me and said, "That's a really interesting question. No one's asked me that." And I didn't think it was that interesting. It was kind of an obvious question about I can't remember what it was now, and I was surprised that he would think that. And then you said like now that he is doing this kind of show and he's now saying stuff, and I'll often be told by Japanese journalist friends, I'll be watching a game with them and I'll say something about this player or this club, and they'll kind of say, oh, that's a bit harsh, you can't say that. And I say, well, but it's true, right? And they go, yeah, it's true, but you shouldn't really say it. And I kind of go, well, I don't understand what you're saying, mate. if I've just come out and said, I don't like this player, he's this, and they say, well, that's not fair because this is this. But they agree with the point, but say you shouldn't say it. And that's where I get confused. Like you said with Makino, a lot of people will not particularly like him, fans of other teams or whatever, will go, they won't like the way he behaves, but the majority of them, I think, would say, but fair play, he's got a point, or it's more because he plays for a different team, and that's what football is like around the world. People that Barcelona fans will not like Cristiano Ronaldo because he's not Lionel Messi. If they happen to play for different clubs, they would be defending their guy, and that's what it's about. There's not always a fairness in football or in life. There's always, and people have biases, and I think that's okay. They should be encouraged.
It's part of the whole sport. It's what makes it, essentially interesting.
There's your sort of template for a Ibra type controversial. He'll say anything. He doesn't really care. Not that he doesn't care, but like he's not afraid to be controversial.
Right. Imagine Zlatan in the J-League.
Zlatan in the J-League. No, gentlemen, we're running out of time. But do we have anything else that we want to discuss about for a short amount of time?
No, not for sure.
No, not all day. I will say, I think we've talked about sort of adding in banter, things like improving, sort of touching on all of the things we mentioned. Sure. I think that the J-League deserves a lot of credit for doing a show like this. I think it's something that they've built on this season, especially with like J-League Judge Replay, which has been an amazing...
Who approves of Judge Replay?
Oh, God.
Judge Replay.
Yes. I think that Judge.
Oh, she gets it out.
Yeah.
You had it hidden.
Judge Replay has been the best thing the J-League has done this season because we talked a lot about bad players being held to account and managers being held to account. We didn't talk about referees being held to account, and that's something that finally, after years of sort of bad calls and really questionable decisions being shoved under the rug, now we're talking about them. And you can look at Judge Replay and say that, well, you can disagree with the findings of the hosts and there's room, but at least the debate is happening. And I do hope that, I think that all of us, none of us would be here if we didn't want to see the league improve. And so I think that shows like this, and hopefully there will be more shows like this, but they are a big step toward showing the league that this is how you can get better, because in the end that's what we want to see, a better league.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the league is listening.
Absolutely.
The fact that we're sitting here right now, 10 years ago it would just be us sitting in a pub, and now it'd be the end of it.
But the fact we can talk about it properly.
The fact that the J-League is saying, okay, maybe that'll work, and that sounds like a good idea, let's see. That at least tells you things are trending in the right direction.
And I think also it has to be, obviously the J-League itself can be doing things and should be doing things. Like Dan said, Judge Replay obviously came in part from the J-League saying we can do this show. But I think it also has to come from the J-League allowing things to happen. It's not a case of just controlling everything. Like we touched upon players being media trained. Don't media train them. And if they say something controversial, say, well, you're a grown-up, you say something controversial, you deal with the fallout. If the papers run with this, that's fine. And fans, if fans come up with banners that are antagonizing other teams' fans, that's okay. There's no need to always come down and say, stop this, stop this. I completely agree with what Erica says about you want the stadium to be family friendly. That's why I didn't want to say I completely disagree with that point, because absolutely you do. You don't want it to be somewhere that families think we can't really take the kid, or you want it to be family friendly. But yeah, I think sometimes the J-League can take a step back, and if people complain to them, they can just say, that's not our job. People are free to behave as they want in the stadium. Players are free to say what they want. And with people like Makino, we do have examples of that where he'll say something and they go, okay, he's big enough then to say, I think this, and that's what I said, and he'll defend himself on social media, and there's no need to punish him or take him aside and say, can you hold back on the criticism? The J-League now is big enough to take that criticism too, and like Steve just said, it's great that they're here listening to us and saying, okay, what do you think? And rather than saying, yeah, that's nice, foreigners think this, and that's interesting, and then just
but whatever.
Carrying on, exactly.
Excellent. Let's have some words from Erika-san to tip it all off. Have you enjoyed this discussion, and are you going to take into account what's been spoken over here? What do you reckon?
Well, at the end, I put up the agree about talking about when you mentioned about Judge Replay, is that we are trying to make many attempts to open up, will lead the football industry in Japan to open up more and to develop the football level and to expose more and have more fans enjoy.
Because there's so much room for improvement and expansion, you know, regardless of whether it's about the websites or about the players themselves or about interactions with fans.
But that's true everywhere, I think. Like,
we're talking about the
J.League because we know about it, but the English Premier League is doing the same. La Liga in Spain is doing the same. Everywhere, you always have to be looking to improve. It's not just a case you can go, well, we're number one and that's it. There's always things to improve. So by highlighting things in Japan, it's not a case of saying, well, I come from this country and things are better there. It's just pointing out things, and it would be the same anywhere in the world. If any of us lived in other countries, you would see things and there would be discussion. It's, like I said, back in England, people have many issues with the way the Premier League does things, and it would be the same anywhere.
Exactly. I mean, it's always good when we can actually discuss instead of just getting buried underneath the rug, to be honest. And at the end of the day, we all love the J.League Debates, and I hope we can have this discussion again, maybe in a year's time or even earlier, before the actual season starts. You know, I think it's been a very profitable time that we've had, and yeah, let's do this again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everyone for coming then.
That was great.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.